Hello everyone and a very warm welcome to another lesson. In this lesson, we are going to learn about IELTS Speaking Test Part 1. The topic of our lesson is making lists. Making lists. In this lesson, we are going to look at some questions and some sample answers. At the end of this lesson, I'm also going to give you some really helpful tips that are going to ensure that you pass your IELTS speaking test with a very high band. But before we begin this lesson, have you subscribed to this channel? If you haven't, then please subscribe to this channel and I promise you will not regret it. This is because firstly, I upload very helpful videos that are going to help you with your IELTS speaking and writing. Secondly, I have videos on grammar that will help you with your tenses. I have a video on all the tenses that we have in English, very well explained with examples. Number 3, another reason why you should subscribe to this channel is because I have videos on vocabulary. You want to know vocabulary to describe people, to describe your teacher, to describe teenagers, to describe children, then have a look at my playlist on vocabulary. But I also have videos that will help you to speak English in different situations. For example, when you go to the doctor, when you go to the hairdresser, when you go to the optician, when you want to talk about what you did yesterday. So have a look at my playlists and I promise that you will find a lot of videos that are going to help to take your level of English a notch higher. So once you have watched this video, have a look at my playlist and I promise you will not regret having subscribed to this channel. Remember, I upload 2 videos every single day from Monday to Friday. Now, let's get into our lesson. If you're planning to sit for your IELTS speaking test, then there is a very high chance that the examiner is going to ask you questions about making lists. The examiner is going to say to you, tell me about making lists, or let's talk about making lists. Question 1. Do you like making lists? Do you like making lists? In this question, the examiner simply wants to know whether you like making lists. Now, you can answer this question by saying, yes, I do like making to-do lists a lot to help me to recall things that I need to do daily. Yes, I do like making to-do lists a lot to help me to recall things that I need to do daily. So in that answer, you have confirmed that yes, you like making lists, and we are talking about, I have introduced a word that is very helpful, especially if you're going to be wanting to get a band 9 or a band 8, you can use the words to-do lists. Okay, I need to make a to-do list. That is a better word than simply saying I want to make a list. Okay. In that sample answer, I have also used a very helpful word, and that is to recall. To recall is to remember. If you want a band 8 or a band 9, instead of saying to remember, use the word recall. To recall means to remember. Things that I need to do daily. Daily means every day. So if you don't want to say every day, then you can say daily. Yes, I do like making to-do lists a lot to help me to recall things that I need to do daily. So do not simply say, yes, I do like making lists, or no, I don't like making lists, okay? Explain in details, provide details around the question. Let's move on to question 2. When do you usually make lists? When do you usually make lists? In this question, the examiner wants to know, in what situations do you usually make lists? Okay? In what situations? What is it that makes you want to make a list? That's what the examiner wants to know. You can answer that question by saying, I make lists every single time before I go grocery shopping at the supermarket or in our local farmers market. In addition to that, I do always make a list of my daily appointments and a list for my study schedule. I make lists every single time before I go grocery shopping at the supermarket or in our local farmers market. In addition to that, I do always make a list of my daily appointments and also a list for my study schedule. So in that answer, I have identified situations or instances when I make lists. Every single time before I go grocery shopping. Grocery shopping means groceries is food. When you go to the supermarket to buy food and other things, that is grocery shopping. At the supermarket or in your local farmers market. Where you live, there's probably a market, okay? So you can either go grocery shopping at the supermarket or in your local farmers market. In addition to that, I always make a list for my daily appointments. I make a list of my daily appointments and my study schedule. So I have identified 3 situations or instances when I make a list, a to-do list, and that is when I go grocery shopping. 2, when I need to ensure that I have all my daily appointments in order, and for my study schedule. So study schedule, daily appointments, and grocery shopping. Let's move on to question 3. Why do some people like making lists? Why do some people like making lists? In that question, the examiner simply wants you to give him or her some reasons as to why some people like making lists. Now you can answer that question by saying, well, lists can be a great reminder of all the items you need to buy, which helps to prevent impulsive shopping. They do also prevent time wastage, trying to recall things, and most importantly, they guarantee that you don't miss your appointments or forget to meet your deadlines or targets. Well, lists can be a great reminder of all the items you need to buy, which helps to prevent impulsive shopping. They do also prevent time wastage, trying to recall things, and most importantly, they guarantee that you don't miss your appointments or forget to meet your deadlines or targets. So in that question, I have provided a number of reasons as to why people make lists. In other words, this question would also be, what are the advantages of making lists? The first one is that it is a great reminder. It serves as a great reminder of all the items you need to buy. So when you go shopping, grocery shopping for example, a list will remind you of all the things that you need to buy. The second advantage is that it helps to prevent impulsive shopping. It helps to prevent impulsive shopping. Impulsive shopping is when you buy something that you did not even plan to buy, but because you're there and it looks nice, you pick it without thinking too much about it. Impulsive, without thinking, okay? So when you make a list, it helps to prevent impulsive shopping because you only buy the things that you have written on your to-do list. The next one is that making a list prevents time wastage. And this is because you don't have to waste time trying to recall things or remember things. And most importantly, when you make a list, it guarantees that you don't miss your appointments or your deadlines or your targets. Okay? So all of these are advantages of making lists. Now let's move on to question 4. Why don't some people like making lists? Why don't some people like making lists? In this question, the examiner simply wants to know, in your opinion, why don't some people like making lists? Now you can answer this question by saying, some people don't like making lists because they have a good memory and others think that it is too time-consuming. Some people don't like making lists because they have a good memory, and others think that it is too time-consuming. So in that answer, I have identified 2 reasons as to why some people don't like making lists. One, they have a good memory. If you have a good memory, it means that you can remember things. And then the other reason is that some people think it's too time-consuming. Time-consuming means that it takes a lot of time to make a list. It takes a lot of time. It is time-consuming. Okay? So taking a lot of time means time-consuming. Now let's move on to question 5. Where do you usually make your lists? Where do you usually make your lists? So the examiner in this question wants to know, where do you write your lists? Where do you write your lists? Now you can answer this question by saying, in most cases, I make my lists on a piece of paper, notebook, or on my phone, and at times I make a mental list. In most cases, I make my list on a piece of paper, notebook, or on my phone, and at times I make a mental list. So in that answer, I have identified a number of ways a number of things on which you can make your lists. Okay? 1, you can make your list on a piece of paper, a scrap piece of paper, for example, a notebook, on your phone, or you can make a mental list. A mental list means that you memorize the things that you're going to buy. For example, a mental list means that you memorize. In your mind, you make a list. Now let's move on to question 6. Does a list actually work? Does a list actually work? In that question, the examiner wants to know whether it does actually work when you make a list. Does it help? Does a list actually help? Does it work? Now you can answer that question by saying, based on my personal experience, lists work pretty well. They have made me more organized. I no longer miss my personal engagements related to work or my social life. I can manage my time much better now. Based on my personal experience, lists work pretty well. They have made me more organized. I no longer miss my personal engagements related to work or my social life. And I can manage my time much better now. So in that answer, I have given some reasons. First of all, I pointed out that based on my personal experience, lists work pretty well. And then I have explained why. Firstly, they have made me more organized. Secondly, I no longer miss my personal engagements. Now, personal engagements are personal appointments. Engagements is a synonym for appointments. related to work or my social life. And finally, I can manage my time much better now. Now this brings me to the next section of our lesson, where I'm going to give you some tips to ensure that you pass your IELTS Speaking Test Part 1, or rather in general your IELTS Speaking Test with a very high band. And I'm going to use the sample answers to illustrate my tips. Tip number 1, ensure that you understand the question. Listen really carefully to the examiner. Simply relaxed, be very relaxed. Imagine that the examiner is your favorite grandmother or your grandfather, and just relax and listen very carefully to his or her questions. Ensure that you understand the questions. In all the questions here, I have ensured that I have underlined, or rather written, the keyword in each question in bold. In question 1, we have do. Question 2, when. Question 3, why. Question 4, why. Question 5, where. Question 6, does. So listen to the key word in each of the questions as the examiner is asking you the question. Tip number 2, for each of the questions, ensure that you provide 3 to 4 details. In other words, provide well-elaborated answers. For example, sample answer 1. The examiner asked me, do you like making lists? Now, do not simply say, yes, I do like making lists. In my answer, you can see I have explained when I do it, how often I do it, and why. Yes, I do like making to-do lists a lot to help me to recall things. So the reason I make lists is to help me to remind me things. And how often do I do it? Daily, which means every day. So ensure that you provide elaborate answers. Okay? Tip number 2, ensure that you use a variety of sentence structures in your answers. Use simple, compound, and complex sentences. A simple sentence has one verb. For example, in sample answer 6. Sample answer 6. The second sentence, they have made me more organized. They have made me more organized. That could be an example of a simple sentence. Or in sample answer 5, in most cases, I make my lists on a piece of paper. That is a simple sentence. But also ensure that you use compound sentences. Compound sentences have at least 2 verbs, and most of the times we use a linking word to make a compound sentence. For example, the very first sentence, sample answer 1, yes, I do like making to-do lists a lot to help me to recall things that I need to do daily. That is a compound sentence. You can see we have at least 2 verbs, make, help, and need. Also, have a look at sample answer 4. Some people don't like making lists because they have a good memory, and others think that it is too time consuming. That could also be an example of a compound sentence. Do also ensure that you use a complex sentence. A complex sentence has more than 3 verbs. It has 3 or more. Now, sample answer 3. Well, lists can be a great reminder of all the items you need to buy, which helps to prevent impulsive shopping. That is a compound sentence. But the next one, they do also prevent time wasted trying to recall things, and most importantly, they guarantee that you don't miss your appointments or forget to meet your deadlines or targets. That is a complex sentence. The next tip is ensure that you use the correct vocabulary for the topic that the examiner is asking you about. If you get a question about making lists, if your part 1 is going to be about making lists, I have underlined for you the vocabulary that you need to talk about making lists. In sample answer 1, we have to-do lists. The next word, to recall. Remember, I say to recall is to remember. And then we have the word daily. Daily means every day. In sample answer 2, you have the vocabulary grocery shopping, supermarket, local farmers market, daily appointments, study schedule. In sample answer 3, you have the vocabulary reminder, need to buy, to prevent impulsive shopping, to prevent time wastage, to guarantee that you don't miss your appointments or forget to meet your deadlines. Remember, it is meet your deadlines or targets. In sample answer 4, I have good memory, too time consuming. In sample answer 5, we have the vocabulary on a piece of paper, notebook, my phone, make a mental list. And in sample answer 6, we have more organized, personal engagements. Remember, I said personal engagements are personal commitments or the things that you want to do. And then social life, and finally, manage my time. All this is vocabulary that is going to help you score a band 8 or a band 9. And the next tip, and the most important of them all, is ensure that you speak in the correct grammar. Grammar is extremely important, not only for speaking, but also writing. So, ensure that your grammar is very strong. If you have a problem with your grammar, if you're not very confident with your grammar, then please have a look at my playlist on grammar. I also have a playlist on all the tenses in English. Strengthen your grammar because you will need your grammar for your IELTS speaking and your IELTS writing. The most important thing with your IELTS speaking when it comes to grammar is ensure that you understand what tense you should be using. Make sure you have good subject-verb agreement. Make sure your prepositions and phrasal verbs are correct, okay? Question 1, for example, do you like making lists? You can see the verb there is do. It's in the present tense. So your answer should also be in the present tense. If you look at my answer, yes, I do like making to-do lists a lot to help me to recall things that I need to do daily. All the verbs that I've used in that sample answer 1 are all in the present tense. I have the verbs do, I have the verb need, I have the verb help. So ensure that you use the correct tense. Where do you usually make your list? Look at question 5. Look at the sample answer. I make my list on. See, I'm using the present tense verb because the examiner used it in the question. Where do you usually make your list? The verb is make. So I am using make in the present tense as well. Now, if you're going to be sitting for your IELTS speaking test in the near future, I wish you all the best. Remember, practice makes perfect, so keep practicing. Before I sign off from this lesson, I'm going to read the questions and the sample answers because some of you always request me to do that. Are you ready? Question 1. Do you like making lists? Yes, I do like making to-do lists a lot to help me to recall things that I need to do daily. Question 2. When do you usually make lists? I make lists every single time before I go grocery shopping at the supermarket or in our local farmers market. In addition to that, I do always make a list of my daily appointments and also a list for my study schedule. Question 3. Why do some people like making lists? Well, lists can be a great reminder of all the items you need to buy, which helps to prevent impulsive shopping. They do also prevent time wastage trying to recall things, and most importantly, they guarantee that you don't miss your appointments or forget to meet your deadlines or targets. Question 4. Why don't some people like making lists? Some people don't like making lists because they have a good memories and others think that it is too time consuming. Question 5. Where do you usually make your lists? In most cases, I make my list on a piece of paper, notebook, or on my phone. And at times, I make a mental list. Question 6. Does a list actually work? Based on my personal experience, lists work pretty well. They have made me more organized. I no longer miss my personal engagements related to work or social life. I can manage my time much better now. Now, this reminds me of just one more tip that is extremely important to ensure that you pass your IELTS speaking test. I nearly forgot it, and that is use joining words. Use linking words to join your ideas together for all your questions. You can see, for example, in sample answer 2, I have used and, also, in addition to that, okay? And if you look at sample answer 6, based on my personal experience, lists work pretty well. They have made me more organized. I no longer miss my engagements related to work or my social life. I can manage my time much better now. Now, I could rewrite that sample answer 6 using linking words. And this is how you could do it. Based on my personal experience, lists work pretty well. Firstly, they have made me more organized. Secondly, I no longer miss my personal engagements related to work or social life. Furthermore, I can manage my time much better now. Now, the importance of using linking words is that when you use linking words when you're speaking, it gives you time to think. So I would encourage you to use linking words in your IELTS speaking test, but of course also in your writing. Now, if you found this lesson helpful, then do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and share this video on all your social media platforms. Also, once you have subscribed, do not forget to turn your notification button on, because then you know when I upload a new video. I am going to be uploading more videos on IELTS speaking and IELTS writing. Remember, I also have IELTS speaking parts 2 and 3 cue cards with answers. So have a look at my playlists, and I promise you, I guarantee you, you will find a lot more videos that are going to be helpful. Now, thank you very much for your time, and see you in our next lesson. Bye bye.